welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Evelyn. So today I will be filming a labor and delivery story, and at the end I will include some tips that actually helped me get through my labor. Okay, so to start off, I'm gonna be doing my second labor, not the first one, because that's the most recent. So let's begin. It was April 19, 2019. Sorry. I have my eldest daughter right next to me. She's learning how to walk, so she's currently on the walker. So excuse me if you hear her. Hi, Mama. Okay, so it was, like I said, it was April 19 of this year. It was around 8 in the morning when I woke up. I told my fiance, like, what do you want for breakfast? He said, okay, make me this and this, get a coffee going. I was like, okay. So as soon as I stood up, I was like, wait, did I just get a contraction? I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, did I get a contraction? Like, all scared. And I was like, maybe it's just me overreacting, because I got a lot of Braxton Hicks with this pregnancy, because my pregnancies were only 10 months apart. So the Braxton Hicks did intensify with this one. I would get them throughout, since I was 4 months pregnant, all up until I gave birth. So towards the end, they would come a little stronger. So I would think to myself, like, am I going through labor? And I would scare myself and scare my fiance. We had a couple scares here and there, but you know, we finally got through it. So anyways, that morning, like I said, yeah, I woke up, I asked him, and then I was freaking out. I was like, did I just get a contraction? Shortly after that, I was like, oh, it's just maybe me just overreacting. So I got up, I went to the kitchen, made him his breakfast, and as soon as I made him the breakfast, I was just there on the stove cooking, you know, cooking my day away. And I was like, oh no, I start feeling pain again. I was like, is this another contraction? And I just thought to myself, you know what, maybe it's just me overreacting. It's Braxton Hicks, because I am so late in my pregnancy. And kind of ignored it. And then he went to shower. When he came out, I was like, babe, I think I just got a contraction. He's like, are you sure? I was like, maybe. I'm not 100% sure that they're actual real contractions. They might be Braxton Hicks. We don't know yet. I just have to see what's going on. So after I served him, he sat down to eat, and I was like, no, wait, it's actually another contraction. I was like, you know what, I think I am in labor. Give me a second, let me grab my daughter. She's crying. Sorry, my youngest was crying. Anyways, that's when I realized, oh, like, I'm actually in labor. And I remember thinking to myself, like, you know what, I'm pretty much gonna take a long time from here to my time of delivery, because with our first child, I actually took 16 hours in labor. So I was expecting roughly around anywhere from 10 to maybe 12 hours, because they say the second pregnancy does come a lot faster. So I was like, okay, you know, maybe anywhere from 10 to 12 hours. It's 8 a.m. We're probably gonna have a baby maybe till 8 p.m. this night. So I told my fiance, you know what, you should go to work. He was like, no, like, I'm sure, like, I'm gonna call off. He's like, are you sure, baby? Are you sure? I was like, yeah. I'm like, it's okay. Like, go to work, finish off your day, and then come back. And then he was like, I was like, but you need to be here by like 1, by the time my oldest actually wakes up, because yeah, she loves her sleep. So I was like, yeah, just go to work, it's fine. And here she comes. I was like, okay, so just go to work, it's fine. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, like, just go. And he was like, okay. So he was like, let me know if anything happens. If you feel any pain, just call me. And I was like, okay, I will, don't worry about it. So as soon as he left, I was like, okay, so I'm actually gonna prepare my hospital bag, because till this day I had not done it. I was already 39 weeks and I still hadn't done it. No, 38 weeks and 5 days, and my hospital bag. Well, I actually made one and took it to my mom's house. And yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a Melani's, that's my daughter's name, a Melani's hospital bag. So I decided to start making it, and then From there, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shower because they're probably not gonna let me shower till tomorrow. If I give birth by today, I'm not gonna shower till tomorrow or the next day. So I was like, I'm gonna hop in the shower. So I hopped in the shower and I got 2 contractions while being in the shower, and they were from 2 to 3 minutes apart, and they were lasting about 50 to 60 seconds. So I was like, okay, I'm getting contractions. I'm just gonna wait it out, dry myself off, see how I feel. As soon as I came out of the shower, tell me why my contractions decided to be even more consistent. They were 2 minutes apart each. Then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna call my fiance. So I called him. By this time, it was already 9:30ish. I called him and I was like, hey, baby, where are you? He was like, I just got to my customer's house. I was like, are you sure? He was like, yeah, I just got here. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you're gonna hate me, but I think we're gonna have the baby soon. And he was like, how soon? I was like, well, maybe like in a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours. And then he was like, why? What's going on? I was like, my contractions are 2 minutes apart. And then he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm on my way back. So he came back. When he got here, the pain intensified so much more. They intensified so much to the point where I was like, okay, you know what? Yep, I'm further into my actual labor. I don't think I'm in the first stages of labor anymore. I'm nowhere near being in the first stages, first of all. So then that's when he got here around 10. Yeah, he got here around 10. And then from there, we grabbed Annalise, we dressed her, we put her in her car seat, we took her out the door. And as soon as we were gonna get out the door, I was like, babe, contraction. I'm over here holding out to the wall. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm getting a contraction. So my plan was originally to go deliver in Anaheim, but when I was in the car, my contractions actually intensified so much to the point where I was like, okay, there's traffic right now. And then B, there's like, I'm in a car with a baby that might be crying, and I'm gonna drive an hour and a half to Anaheim. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this. So she actually dropped the chair. Anyways, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. So I was like, hey, one of your coworker lives in like Elsinore, correct? And he was like, yeah. I was like, can you please call him and tell him no, let him know that I'm in labor, and ask him which hospital is closest to us. So he gave us a whole list. He's like, where are you guys? My boyfriend's like, we just came out of the house. She doesn't think she's gonna make it to Anaheim. Is there any other hospital near us? He said Riverside Community Hospital. So I told him, you know what, let's go, we're doing it, let's go there. So as soon as I get there, they tell me to go to the labor and delivery department. After sending us to the labor and delivery department, they made me actually fill out all my paperwork because I wasn't a patient that was supposed to be going there, and I didn't have any of my medical records because I hadn't gone to my last appointment. So I was like, okay. So I was filling out my paperwork. They were like, oh, how far along are you? They, you know, the usual questions they ask when you come into a hospital. From there, they took me to the triage room, and they actually put me on the IV, made sure the baby's heartbeat was fine. They were monitoring her heartbeat, monitoring my heartbeat, getting all the questions about like gestational diabetes, if I had anything going on, was my pregnancy normal, everything. And then from there, they checked me, and I was actually 7 centimeters dilated. And then that's when they were like, okay, you're actually gonna be pushing out this baby pretty soon. So I was like, excuse me? They were like, what time did your contractions start? I was like, at 8 this morning. By that time, it was barely 11:30. So they're like, and you're already 7 centimeters dilated? I was like, yeah. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So as soon as I heard 7 centimeters dilated, I was so happy, because this time around my contractions were so much more intense. They were coming so strong to the point where I would hold on to whatever was around me, and I would like numb myself because I didn't have my yoga ball, unfortunately, this time. And then from there, I came out of the triage room. I met up with my boyfriend again because he actually had Annalise. My parents drove from Anaheim all the way to Riverside, and then they took over our first daughter. From there, they walked me from one room to the other. They got me on more medication. I don't remember what they were putting through my IV. And then from there, they rechecked me, and then they were like, okay, so you're gonna be having this baby soon. You're actually at 8 centimeters dilated. Tell me why I got stuck at 8 centimeters. I was like, oh my god, I got stuck there for 30 minutes. I was like, what do I do? I just remember holding on to my boyfriend. I was like, babe, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this, because this time around, like I said, my contractions were super intense. And then I kept thinking to myself, you know what, Evelyn, you got this. Because the more you think that negative about it, the more it will hurt, and the more like tense your body becomes. So I remember just holding on to my fiance, holding his hand, like squishing it with all my force. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god. And then from there, my mom came in. My mom was in the corner. She was like, with the next contraction, push, because if you don't push, if you don't help her come out, then you're gonna get stuck there. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay, wait for the nurse to leave, because the nurse kept telling me, do not push, do not push. So the nurse was actually behind the curtain. She had never exited the room. So I looked at my mom. She was like, push with your next contraction, you gotta help that baby come out. And I was like, okay, fine. So with my following contraction, I told my babe, like, hold my hand. He was like, okay, so you got this, baby, push. And I was like, okay. So with my next contraction, I pushed, and my nurse was like, stop pushing, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm pushing, this baby is ready to come out. I was like, and I looked at my fiance, I was like, I thought she had left. He was like, I thought too. After that, she actually ended up leaving the room. So I did that 3 times. I pushed when I wasn't supposed to at 8 centimeters. From there, I told my fiance, you know what, like, my contractions are intensifying. I feel her even lower. Can you please go call the nurse? So then he went to go call the nurse. The nurse came in, and she was like, what's going on, honey? And I was like, can you check me again? And then obviously they have to stick their fingers up there. So they were like, oh, you're actually 9 centimeters dilated. And I was like, oh my god, good. She was like, but stop pushing, please don't push. And I was like, okay. So that shortly after that, mom was like, push again with your next contraction. And there goes Evelyn, listening to her mother. From there, they actually brought in more nurses. They brought in the doctor and the student doctor that was actually there with the doctor that was gonna deliver me that day. So from there, they prepped the room, they prepped everything. They told me, okay, so hold up your legs. They checked me again. By then, I was 10 centimeters dilated already. From there, the doctor was like, okay, you're gonna start pushing on my count with your next contraction. And I was holding on to my fiance with all my strength, because obviously I felt every single little pain that would go through my body, because I wasn't on any medication. I wasn't on any epidural. So I felt everything. So from there on, my contraction came. I ended up pushing. But when I was trying to push at the count of the nurses and the count of the doctor, everybody else was talking in the background. And it got to the point where I got so frustrated, because I'm in labor, I'm in 100% pain, and there's nurses and doctors talking in the background. I'm like, can you guys all be quiet and one person count with me? I don't need to be hearing everybody around me count. Like, can just one person count with me so I can get through this? They were like, the doctor was like, oh, it's only one person counting. I'm like, no, I can hear voices from everywhere. Like, can just someone count with me? So they were like, okay. So they were like, well, next contraction, push. I began pushing again, and I hear talking everywhere. I was like, you know what, this is not gonna happen. Someone needs to count with me on my count. Like, everybody needs to be quiet, and like one person coach me through this. I don't need to be hearing everyone around me talking. So my nurse, the nurse that was actually attending me while I was in the labor and delivery room before I actually delivered, was like, you know what, honey, go on my count. And I was like, okay. on your account. So I pushed 3 times. After the 3rd time, she was born. She was born at 1:03 p.m. And from there on, you know, they cut the umbilical cord. My fiance cut the umbilical cord, and that's when we first heard our baby Emelanie Stella Hernandez cry. And my fiance obviously followed her to where they put her under the little heaters to take her measurements and everything. And my mom was there crying. Obviously, it's an emotional moment. From there, they do their own stitching. They do whatever they have to do. So that was my experience on my labor and delivery. Now for some tips that actually worked with my first labor and delivery, and actually helped with my second. For my experience with my first labor and delivery, I actually didn't feel any contractions while I was on the yoga ball, that they were able to actually insert the IV while being on it, because to me it just eased off all my contractions. I no longer felt pain. With this time around, I actually forgot the yoga ball at my mom's house because my plan was actually to go deliver there. Another tip I have is that when you're feeling a contraction, let it go through your body. Do not fight the contraction and do not intensify your body and your muscles, because doing so will actually make it hurt more. So yeah, and then from there, another thing I can advise is to prepare yourself mentally prior to your labor and delivery, because if you don't prepare yourself mentally, you're just gonna go over the roof. You're gonna end up wanting to get the epidural. I don't know, in my opinion, I am against the epidural. That's why I had 2 natural births. Another tip that actually helps a lot is having an actual support system where you can actually go to someone and like they can be there supporting you, telling you got this, it's okay, you're gonna be okay. For my end, that actually helped me a lot. It actually made me feel like, okay, you know what, I actually am capable of doing this, because any woman is capable of doing it. It just requires a lot of strength and a lot of pain to do so. So another tip that I can give you guys is do not say that you can't do this, because honey, they do hurt. You're gonna feel at the moment where you're gonna be like, you know what, I can't do this, I can't do this, but girl, you got this. Another thing that actually helped me was downloading an app which helps keep track of your contractions and actually times them to see how far apart they are. I don't quite remember the name of the app at the top of my head right now, but I'll make sure to link it down below. Another thing that actually helps is humming when you have a contraction. I don't know why, it just like eases you, I guess. It just eases you off. I don't know, but it actually helped me a lot. I would hum during contractions. That concludes today's video, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you guys next time.